Monday morning light filtered through the towering glass windows of Grant Industries, casting long shadows across the bustling lobby. The 40-story building hummed with the energy of another business week beginning. Executives in tailored suits hurried past marble columns, their heels clicking against polished floors as they rushed toward elevators and important meetings. In the center of this corporate symphony moved Sophia Reyes, 37 years old, almost invisible in her pale blue janitor's uniform. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her brown skin caught the morning light as she methodically cleaned the reception area. Despite her humble appearance, there was something dignified about the way she carried herself, something that spoke of quiet strength and hidden depths. Sophia had been working the morning shift for 8 months now, arriving before dawn to ensure the building sparkled before the first executives appeared. She moved with practiced efficiency, her cleaning cart trailing behind her like a faithful companion. Most people looked right through her, seeing only the uniform, never the person wearing it. At the reception desk, chaos was brewing. A group of international clients had arrived for an important merger meeting, but their translator hadn't shown up. The receptionist, Lisa, was growing increasingly flustered as she tried to communicate with the agitated visitors. "I'm so sorry," Lisa said helplessly to a well-dressed French businessman who was speaking rapidly and gesturing with obvious frustration. "Our translator is running late. If you could just wait a few more minutes." "C'est unacceptable," the man exclaimed, his voice rising. "We have scheduled this meeting for months." Behind him, a German woman in an expensive suit shook her head disapprovingly while checking her watch. "Das ist sehr unprofessionell," she muttered to her colleague. A Japanese gentleman stood slightly apart from the group, speaking quietly into his phone in his native language, clearly trying to explain the delay to someone on the other end. Sophia paused in her cleaning, her eyes moving between the frustrated visitors and the increasingly distressed receptionist. She'd witnessed scenes like this before, but something about the genuine panic in Lisa's eyes made her set down her spray bottle. Taking a deep breath, Sophia stepped forward quietly, her voice soft but clear as she addressed the French businessman. "Excusez-moi, monsieur. Je peux vous aider si vous voulez. Il y a eu un malentendu avec la traduction." The Frenchman's eyes widened in surprise. "Vous parlez français?" "Oui, monsieur," Sophia replied with a gentle smile. She then turned to the German woman. "Und ich spreche auch Deutsch. Es tut mir leid für die Verwirrung." The German woman blinked in astonishment. "Sie sprechen Deutsch?" Without missing a beat, Sophia addressed the Japanese businessman in perfect Japanese. "Sumimasen, honyaku ni mondai ga arimashita. Watashi ga tasukete mo yoroshii desu ka?" The lobby fell silent. Even the usual bustle of morning foot traffic seemed to pause as people stopped to stare at the janitor, who was effortlessly switching between 3 languages, calming the agitated visitors with her calm, professional demeanor. It was at that exact moment that Daniel Grant stepped out of the executive elevator. At 34, he was the youngest CEO in the company's history, having inherited the position after his father's retirement 2 years earlier. Tall and lean with dark hair and sharp blue eyes, Daniel was known for his keen intellect and attention to detail. He had been rushing toward his office, his mind already focused on the morning's agenda, when the sound of multiple languages being spoken fluently in his lobby made him stop in his tracks. Daniel watched in amazement as Sophia continued to translate, her voice patient and professional as she explained the situation to each group in their native language. She moved between French, German, and Japanese with the ease of someone switching between different rooms in their own home. "The translator will be here shortly," Sophia explained in English to Lisa, loud enough for Daniel to hear. "I have assured them that the meeting will proceed as planned. They understand now that it was just a miscommunication." Lisa's face flooded with relief. "Thank you so much, Sophia. I don't know what I would have done without you." Sophia simply nodded and began to return to her cleaning cart, as if speaking 3 foreign languages fluently was the most natural thing in the world. Daniel remained frozen by the elevator, his briefcase forgotten in his hand. In 8 months of passing this woman in the hallways, he had never heard her speak more than a polite "good morning." Now he stood watching her handle an international crisis with more grace and skill than most of his highly paid executives. Who was Sophia Reyes? And what other secrets was she hiding behind that quiet, unassuming exterior? Where are you watching this video right now? At home, at work, or maybe during your lunch break? Let me know in the comments below. I love hearing from each and every one of you. 8 years ago, Sofia Reyes had stood before a lecture hall filled with eager students at Universidad Nacional in her home country, her voice carrying across the room as she taught advanced linguistics and comparative literature. Dr. Sofia Reyes, as she was known then, held degrees in 7 languages and had published research papers on cross-cultural communication that were referenced in universities around the world. Her life had been everything she'd dreamed of: a respected position, a loving husband who was a civil engineer, and their bright 6-year-old son Miguel, who showed the same gift for languages that had shaped his mother's career. But life has a way of changing course without warning. The political upheaval in her country had come suddenly and violently. Her husband Carlos had been working on a government infrastructure project when the regime changed. As someone associated with the previous administration, he became a target. One evening, he simply didn't come home from work. Sofia had waited by the phone for 3 days before the call came. Carlos's body had been found by the river. The official report called it an accident, but Sofia knew better. The new government was systematically eliminating anyone who posed a threat to their power. Overnight, Sofia went from being a respected professor to being the widow of a political dissident. Her position at the university was terminated without explanation. Their home was seized. Their bank accounts were frozen. But the cruelest blow was yet to come. The stress and trauma had triggered something in little Miguel's immune system. What started as fatigue and frequent colds quickly progressed to something far more serious. The doctors had a name for it: a rare autoimmune condition that required expensive treatment and constant monitoring. With no job, no home, and no access to the medical care her son desperately needed, Sofia made the hardest decision of her life. She used the last of her hidden savings to buy 2 plane tickets to America, carrying nothing but a small suitcase and her dying son. The America that greeted them was nothing like the land of opportunity she had imagined. Without proper documentation, without recognized credentials, without connections, Sofia found herself invisible in a country that had no use for a foreign linguistics professor. She tried everything, applying for teaching positions, translation work, even tutoring. But without the proper certifications, without time to navigate the complex process of credential recognition, and with a sick child who needed her constant attention, doors remained closed. The job at Grant Industries had been a lifeline thrown to a drowning woman. It paid minimum wage, came with basic health insurance, and asked no questions about her background. All they cared about was that she showed up on time and kept their building clean. So every morning at 5 a.m., Sofia left Miguel sleeping in their tiny studio apartment and took 2 buses to reach the gleaming corporate tower. She cleaned bathrooms, emptied trash cans, and mopped floors while around her, executives conducted business in the languages she had once taught to university students. The irony wasn't lost on her. She understood every word of the international phone calls she overheard while cleaning offices. She could have solved countless communication problems, prevented misunderstandings, even helped secure deals that fell through due to language barriers. But she was invisible to them, just another service worker whose presence was taken for granted. In the evenings, Sofia would return to their cramped apartment where Miguel waited, often too weak from his treatments to play like other children his age. Their dinner table was a cardboard box, and their shared meal was usually rice and beans, bought with carefully counted coins. But every night, without fail, Sofia would sit with her son and teach him something new. Using scraps of paper and pencils worn down to nubs, she would show him letters in different alphabets, teach him how to say hello in Mandarin or thank you in Arabic. "Why do you know so many languages, Mama?" Miguel asked one evening, his thin face brightening with curiosity despite his exhaustion. "Because, mi amor," Sofia replied, smoothing his dark hair. "Languages are bridges. They connect people. They carry stories. They hold the power to change everything. And someday you'll understand that having many bridges means you can help more people find their way home." Miguel smiled, though he didn't fully understand. He fell asleep that night with his head on his mother's lap as she softly recited poetry in French, her voice carrying dreams of the life they had lost and hopes for the future they might still build. What Miguel couldn't see, what no one at Grant Industries could see, was that his mother cried herself to sleep most nights, not from self-pity, but from the weight of unused potential. She was like a concert pianist forced to only play scales, a master chef limited to making sandwiches. Sophia Reyes carried within her the ability to bridge worlds, to solve problems, to teach and inspire. But in the harsh reality of survival, those gifts remained buried beneath the uniform of a janitor who arrived before dawn and left after dark, invisible to everyone except the sick little boy who still believed his mother could do anything. The morning after the lobby incident, Daniel Grant couldn't concentrate on his usual routine. During his 7 a.m. strategy meeting, while his executives discussed quarterly projections, his mind kept drifting to the image of Sophia calmly switching between languages as if she were changing radio stations. Daniel, his CFO, Margaret Chen, was looking at him with concern. "Did you hear the question about the European expansion timeline?" "Sorry," Daniel said, refocusing. "Could you repeat that?" But even as the meeting continued, he found himself glancing toward the hallway, wondering if he might catch another glimpse of the mysterious janitor who had handled an international crisis better than most of his diplomats. During his lunch break, Daniel did something he'd never done before. He sought out Lisa at the reception desk. "That situation yesterday morning," he began, trying to sound casual. "The translator mix-up. How did you resolve it?" Lisa's face lit up with relief at the memory. "Oh my goodness, Mr. Grant, it was amazing. Sophia, she's one of our night cleaning staff. She just stepped in and started speaking to everyone in their own languages. French, German, Japanese, like it was nothing. I've never seen anything like it." "Sophia," Daniel repeated. "She's worked here long." "About 8 months. Always early, never misses a day. Keeps to herself mostly. But yesterday," Lisa shook her head in wonder. "I had no idea she was so educated. She handled those clients better than any professional translator I've seen." That afternoon, Daniel found himself taking an unusual route through the building, one that happened to pass by areas where Sophia might be working. He spotted her on the 15th floor, methodically cleaning windows, her movements efficient and practiced. As he watched from a distance, he noticed something else. Dr. Williams from the International Law Department approached her hesitantly. "Excuse me," Dr. Williams said in broken Spanish. "Habla usted español?" "Sí, por supuesto," Sophia replied with a warm smile. "¿En qué puedo ayudarle?" Daniel watched as Dr. Williams pulled out his phone, showing Sophia what appeared to be a legal document. They spoke quietly for several minutes, Sophia occasionally pointing to specific sections of the text and explaining something in both Spanish and English. "Thank you so much, Doctor," Williams said as they finished. "You've saved me hours of research. I didn't know we had someone so fluent in legal terminology right here in the building." Sophia simply nodded and returned to her work, but Daniel noticed the way her eyes had brightened during the conversation, the way her posture had straightened when she was using her linguistic skills instead of just cleaning. Word began to spread quietly through the building. Someone mentioned to someone else that the quiet janitor had helped with a translation. Another person remembered seeing her assist a confused visitor from Italy the week before. Sarah from Human Resources found herself lingering by the break room where Sophia was restocking supplies. "Sophia," Sarah asked tentatively, "I heard you helped Dr. Williams with some Spanish documents. I don't suppose... Do you know any Portuguese? We have some contracts from Brazil that our usual translator is struggling with." Sophia paused in her work, her expression carefully neutral. "I could take a look, if it would help." "Would you?" "Oh, that would be wonderful. I can pay you for the extra time, of course." "That's not necessary," Sophia said quietly. "I'm happy to help." What Sarah didn't know was that Sophia had actually written her master's thesis on Portuguese literature and had spent a summer studying at the University of São Paulo before Miguel was born. Marcus from the IT department was the next to approach her. He'd overheard Sarah mentioning Sophia's help and wondered if she might know any Chinese. His grandmother had written him a letter before she passed away, and he'd never been able to get it properly translated. When Sophia read the letter aloud to him in perfect Mandarin, then translated it into English with tears in her eyes, it was a letter full of love and pride for her grandson's accomplishments. Marcus was speechless. "Where did you learn to speak Chinese so beautifully?" he asked. Sophia's smile was sad but proud. "I taught comparative linguistics for 12 years. Chinese was one of my specializations." "Taught? You were a teacher?" "Once," Sophia said simply. then returned to her cleaning cart before Marcus could ask more questions. But the word continued to spread through the building like ripples in a pond. The quiet janitor who came in before dawn wasn't just someone who cleaned their offices. She was someone who could bridge language barriers that had been frustrating employees for months. People began to notice her differently. Instead of looking through her, they began to see her. Some offered small smiles when they passed her in the hallway. Others said good morning and actually waited for her response. Elena from the marketing department left a small potted plant on Sofia's cart with a note in Spanish. Gracias por todo lo que haces. Eres especial. Thank you for everything you do. You are special. Sofia found the plant during her break and held the note for a long time, her eyes filling with tears. For the first time in months, she felt seen not just as a service worker, but as a person with value beyond her ability to clean and organize. She had no idea that 3 floors above, Daniel Grant was making phone calls, trying to learn everything he could about the woman who was slowly, quietly changing the atmosphere of his entire building. 3 weeks after the lobby incident, Daniel had learned more about Sofia Reyes than he'd ever known about any of his employees. Through careful inquiries and discreet investigation, he discovered fragments of her story: the teaching background, the family tragedy, the sick child she was supporting alone. What he hadn't expected was how difficult it would be to approach her. Sofia seemed to have an uncanny ability to disappear whenever he tried to find her. She worked efficiently and quietly, always one step ahead of any attempt at conversation beyond a polite greeting. Finally, Daniel decided on a direct approach. He waited by the elevator on the 20th floor at 6 a.m., knowing that was when Sofia typically finished the upper floors. When the elevator doors opened and Sofia stepped out with her cleaning cart, she nearly dropped her supplies at the sight of the CEO standing there at dawn. "Mr. Grant," she said, quickly recovering her composure. "I'm sorry, I didn't expect anyone to be here so early. I can come back later to finish this floor." "No, please," Daniel said, stepping aside. "Actually, I was hoping we could talk." Sofia's expression became guarded. In her experience, when bosses wanted to talk to janitors, it usually meant trouble. "Is there a problem with my work?" she asked carefully. "Quite the opposite," Daniel replied. "I've been hearing remarkable things about you, your language skills, your ability to help our international clients and employees. I think we're wasting your talents." Sofia's hands tightened on the handle of her cart. "I don't understand." "I'd like to offer you a position in our international relations department as a language consultant and cultural liaison. The pay would be significantly better, and you'd be using your actual skills instead of—" He gestured toward her cleaning supplies. For a moment, Sofia's face lit up with something that looked like hope. But then, as quickly as it had appeared, the light faded. "I appreciate the offer, Mr. Grant, but I have to decline." Daniel blinked in surprise. "May I ask why?" Sofia was quiet for a long moment, her eyes fixed on the floor. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I need this job exactly as it is. The hours, the benefits, the predictability. I can't afford to take risks. But this would be a promotion. Better pay, better hours, ... Better hours during the day," Sofia interrupted gently, "which means I would need childcare. Better pay that might not be guaranteed if I don't perform to expectations. I've learned that when people like me try to reach too high, we fall harder." Daniel felt his heart sink. "People like you." Sofia's smile was sad but kind. "Immigrants, single mothers, people with gaps in their employment history, people who don't have safety nets." She paused. "I have a son, Mr. Grant. He's sick, very sick. This job gives me health insurance that covers his treatments. It gives me flexibility to be home with him when he needs me. It's not glamorous, but it's reliable. We could work around your schedule," Daniel offered. "We could ensure the same benefits." Sofia shook her head. "I learned a long time ago not to trust promises, even well-intentioned ones. I've been disappointed too many times." She began to push her cart toward the elevator, then stopped and turned back. "Mr. Grant, I want you to know how much I appreciate that you noticed me, that you see value in what I can do. That means more to me than you'll ever know." Her voice grew stronger. "But I've made peace with my life as it is. I clean your building, I help people when I can, and I go home to my son. It's enough." "What if it didn't have to be enough?" Daniel asked quietly. "What if you could have more?" Sophia's eyes filled with unshed tears. I had more once. I had everything. And I lost it all in a single day. Now I've learned to find joy in small things, in being useful, in knowing that my son is safe and getting the medical care he needs. She straightened her shoulders. I don't need to be important to be valuable. With that, she stepped into the elevator, leaving Daniel standing alone in the hallway, holding an offer that had been refused by someone who had every reason to accept it. That evening, Daniel sat in his penthouse apartment, staring out at the city lights below. He'd built his career on the belief that everyone wanted more. More money, more status, more recognition. But Sophia had challenged that assumption in a way that left him questioning everything he thought he knew about motivation and success. He pulled out his phone and called his assistant. Rebecca, I need you to do some research for me. I want to know about childhood autoimmune disorders, treatment costs, and the best pediatric specialists in the area. Sir? And I want you to set up a meeting with our head of HR. I think it's time we reviewed our employee benefits package. If Sophia wouldn't let him help her directly, Daniel thought, maybe he could find another way to ensure that people like her didn't have to choose between dreams and survival. 2 months passed and Daniel found himself increasingly frustrated by Sophia's continued refusal of his offers. Every attempt to engage her in conversation beyond work-related matters was met with polite but firm boundaries. She had made it clear that she valued her position exactly as it was. But Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that Sophia was meant for something greater than cleaning offices at dawn. His opportunity came unexpectedly on a Thursday morning when his assistant Rebecca burst into his office with barely contained panic. Daniel, we have a crisis. The Nakamura deal, the one worth $40 million? Their entire negotiation team flew in from Tokyo this morning for the final contract signing. That's good news, Daniel said, looking up from his computer. What's the crisis? Our interpreter called in sick with food poisoning, and the backup interpreter was in a car accident last night. The Nakamura team doesn't speak much English, and Mr. Nakamura specifically requested that all contract discussions be conducted in Japanese to avoid any misunderstandings. Daniel felt his stomach drop. The Nakamura deal represented the largest international contract in the company's history. Months of delicate negotiations had led to this moment. And now, what about the translation service downtown? I called everyone. It's flu season, and apparently there's a shortage of certified business interpreters available on short notice. The earliest anyone can get here is Monday. Monday? Daniel stood up abruptly. They fly back to Tokyo tonight. If we don't sign today, they're going to accept the competing offer from Brennan Industries. Rebecca nodded miserably. I'm still making calls, but it's not looking good. Daniel stared out his window at the city below, his mind racing. $40 million, dozens of jobs, the future expansion into Asian markets, all hanging in the balance because of a language barrier. And then, like lightning, it hit him. Rebecca, he said slowly, what floor is Sophia working on right now? Sophia? The janitor? I think she's on 15. Why? Without answering, Daniel grabbed his suit jacket and headed for the elevator. He found Sophia methodically cleaning the conference rooms on the 15th floor, preparing them for the day's meetings. She looked up in surprise as he approached, noting the urgency in his expression. Mr. Grant, is everything all right? Sophia, I need your help, and before you say no, please let me explain. Daniel took a deep breath. We have a $40 million deal hanging in the balance. The Japanese negotiation team is here, but our interpreter can't make it. I know you speak Japanese. I heard you that morning in the lobby. Sophia's expression became guarded. Mr. Grant, I told you. I'm not offering you a new job, Daniel interrupted. I'm asking you to help us for one day, one meeting, just a few hours of your time. I don't have business interpretation experience, Sophia said carefully. But you understand the language, and you understand people. That's more than we have right now. Sophia was quiet for a long moment, clearly torn. Finally, she spoke. What about my regular duties? We'll handle them. Please, Sophia. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't critical. An hour later, Sophia found herself in the executive boardroom, wearing a borrowed blazer over her uniform, sitting across from 6 impeccably dressed Japanese businessmen. Daniel had briefly explained the contract details, but Sophia had insisted on reviewing all the documents beforehand. What Daniel didn't know was that Sophia had actually specialized in business and legal translation during her academic career. She understood not just the language, but the cultural nuances that could make or break international negotiations. Mr. Nakamura, the lead negotiator, was a dignified man in his 60s with sharp eyes and a formal demeanor. When Sophia introduced herself in perfect, respectful Japanese, his eyebrows rose slightly. "Your pronunciation is excellent," he said in Japanese. "Where did you study our language?" "At university," Sophia replied, matching his formal tone. "I also spent time studying in Kyoto during my graduate work." What followed was 3 hours of the most skilled interpretation Daniel had ever witnessed. Sophia didn't just translate words. She translated meaning, context, cultural implications. When Mr. Nakamura made a subtle reference to a Japanese business concept that had no direct English equivalent, Sophia explained the underlying philosophy in a way that made the entire room nod in understanding. During a brief break, Daniel overheard Mr. Nakamura speaking to his colleague in rapid Japanese. "What are they saying?" Daniel whispered to Sophia. Sophia hesitated, then translated quietly. Mr. Nakamura said, "This interpreter understands business better than most executives I've met. She's not just translating our words, she's translating our intentions." When the contracts were finally signed, Mr. Nakamura stood and bowed deeply to Sophia, speaking in Japanese. "He's thanking me," Sophia translated, her cheeks flushed with emotion. "He says working with me was an honor." After the Japanese team left, the boardroom fell silent. Daniel's executives sat in stunned amazement, staring at the woman in the borrowed blazer who had just secured the largest deal in company history. Daniel stood slowly, his voice filled with emotion. "Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to meet Dr. Sophia Reyes. For the past 8 months, she's been cleaning our offices while we conducted business above her head. Today, she just saved a $40 million contract that none of us could have managed without her." He turned to address Sophia directly. "You told me you didn't want to be important to be valuable. But Sophia, you've just proven that you're both. And I think it's time we recognize that officially." Sophia's eyes filled with tears as Daniel continued. "I'm creating a new position, Director of International Cultural Relations. It comes with a salary commensurate with your education and skills, full health benefits that will cover any medical needs your family might have, and flexible hours that will allow you to be the mother your son needs. But more than that," Daniel's voice grew stronger, "I want you to know that you've changed this company. You've changed me. You've shown us that talent and dignity aren't determined by job titles or office locations." Sophia covered her face with her hands and wept. Tears of relief, of gratitude, of hope finally allowed to bloom after years of careful suppression. How do you feel knowing the truth? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to Hidden Heroine so you never miss incredible stories like this one. 6 months later, the 22nd floor of Grant Industries looked different. What had once been storage space was now the International Cultural Center, with Sophia's nameplate gleaming on a corner office door that overlooked the city she had once viewed only through the windows she cleaned. But the real transformation wasn't in the office space. It was in the 9-year-old boy who now visited his mother at work without shame, his face bright with health and pride. Miguel Reyes had responded remarkably well to the new treatment plan that Sophia's improved insurance had made possible. The experimental therapy that had once been financially impossible was now part of his regular care. His energy had returned, along with his curiosity about the world and his mother's gift for languages. "Mama, teach me how to say thank you in Korean," Miguel said, sitting in Sophia's office after school, his homework spread across the small table she'd set up for him. "Gamsahamnida," Sophia replied, watching her son carefully pronounce the unfamiliar syllables. "But why Korean specifically?" "Mr. Grant said new clients from Seoul are coming next week, and I want to greet them properly." Sophia smiled, her heart swelling with a mixture of pride and gratitude. The scared, sickly child who had once hidden in their tiny apartment had grown into a confident boy who saw his mother's work as something to be proud of, not hidden from. Daniel appeared in her doorway, carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing the easy smile that had replaced his former corporate formality. "How's our future polyglot doing?" he asked, setting 1 cup on Sophia's desk. I already know 4 languages, Miguel announced proudly. Mama says by the time I'm 12, I'll know 7. Just like your mother, Daniel said, settling into the chair across from Sophia's desk. It had become their routine, an end-of-day conversation that was part business, part friendship, and part something neither of them had quite named yet. The Seoul team specifically requested you for next week's negotiations, Daniel told Sophia. Word is getting out about our cultural liaison services. I think we're going to need to expand the department soon. Sophia nodded, but her attention was caught by something Miguel was drawing. A picture of the Grant Industries building with stick figures in the windows. In the center, he'd drawn a woman in a business suit with the word mama written in multiple languages around her. You know what I love most about this? Sophia said, holding up Miguel's drawing. What? He's drawing me in an office, not hiding in a supply closet. He sees his mother as someone who belongs here, someone who has value beyond what she can clean or fix. Daniel's expression grew soft. He sees you the way the rest of us have learned to see you. That evening, Sophia and Miguel walked home together through the city streets, past the small apartment they'd shared during the hardest months. They still lived simply. Sophia's values hadn't changed with her circumstances, but the weight of constant fear had lifted from both their shoulders. Mama, Miguel said as they stopped at their favorite food truck for dinner, do you miss cleaning the offices? Sophia considered the question seriously. I miss the quiet of early mornings, and I miss feeling like I was helping in small ways. But I don't miss feeling invisible. What's the difference between helping in small ways and big ways? Sophia smiled, ordering their food in Spanish and watching Miguel's eyes light up as the vendor responded warmly. I used to think that helping meant making myself smaller so others could be bigger. Now I understand that real help sometimes means taking up space, using your voice, showing people what's possible. As they sat on a park bench sharing their meal, Sophia reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From a respected professor to a grieving refugee, to an invisible janitor, to a valued executive, each phase had taught her something about resilience, dignity, and the complex nature of worth. Remember, she told Miguel as they watched the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors, never judge people by their uniform or their accent or their circumstances. Sometimes the most extraordinary people are hiding in the most ordinary places. Like you were. Like all of us are, mi amor. We all carry treasures that the world hasn't discovered yet. If you believe that determination and talent always find a way to shine, please subscribe to Hidden Heroine. Let's spread these heartwarming stories together.